Hi everyone, in this video I will be explaining steps that you can take to solve absolute value equations. Absolute value equations begins with a basic knowledge of absolute value, and so I'm going to start by giving you a quick run through of that. When you have absolute value, first of all you have something that looks like this, and although you can read it as the absolute value of 3, it might serve you better to turn it into a question. And the question would be, if I write it out, it would be, how far is 3 from 0? So how far is 3 from 0 is a question. And to answer this question, we'd have to draw a number line or think of a number line. So if I put 0 as our neutral zone, then the number 3, which would be to the right, would be exactly 1, 2, 3 spaces away from 0. You expect that. And by the way, when I say spaces, I'm talking about units, right? So spaces or units from 0. Right? So that actually becomes the answer. So if the question is how far is 3 from 0, then you say, well, that is 3 spaces from 0. Therefore, if you go back to the original question, which was expressed this way in just algebra, the absolute value of 3 is equal to 3. Now, we can take this kind of thinking and apply it to a situation where we start off not knowing the number inside the absolute value. So for example, if I were to give you something like this, now the difference is that we don't know the value inside the absolute value, right? But we do know the distance of whatever number that would be from 0, and that distance is 3 units away from 0. So just to make sure this number makes sense, I'm going to put 3 units from 0. Okay, and we can turn this into a question, which I will also write for you. So the question is, instead of saying what is the absolute value of m is equal to 3, which doesn't really help us to think of a way to answer it, we can try to express this as a question that makes a lot of sense. And that would be, in my opinion, something like this. It would be, what number? So what number, which would be all that represents just the m, right? The variable. What number, and then the equal sign becomes the word is. So what number is, and then 3 units from 0. So all this simply completes our sentence or our question. So 3 units from 0. And let's put a question mark on this so it's official. So now we have a question that is asking, what number is 3 units from 0? And once again, I want to draw a number line so we can visualize this. So if 0 is like the neutral zone, we know already from our first example that the number 3 is exactly 3 units from 0. So I'm going to represent that by putting a 3 on the right side. But a number line is bidirectional. And all that means is that it goes to positive infinity on the right and negative infinity to the left. And we have to consider all the numbers that are 3 units from 0, not just to the right, but also to the left. So first, I'll complete what I have done so far. 1, 2, 3. Okay, but if we go the other way, we can see very easily, 1, 2, 3, that we arrive at a different number, and that would be negative 3. Now, we have two answers here, right? We have a negative 3 and a positive 3, both of which answer the question, what is 3 units from 0? And so when we write the answer to this, we have to be sure to express both numbers as the correct answer. So I'm going to write m is negative 3, but, well, I could say the variable m could be either negative 3 or positive 3. Okay, so m could be either negative 3 or positive 3. So if I were to write a sentence, which I think is a good idea, I should actually write this down. So m could be either -3 or +3, okay? Or +3. And this is a complete answer. If you were only to say 3, or you were only to say, let's say, -3, but you didn't put the +3 in there, you would have an answer that is incomplete. You would need to express both. Now, in algebra, there is a shortcut way of writing this. So you could abbreviate the answers. Since both -3 and +3 are inverses of each other, you could simply express this and say the value, or whatever m could be, is positive or -3. And you can only do this when the answers for that variable are inverses of each other. And what that means is, for example, if you had an answer that said, well, this could be 5, or it could be -6, well, then you couldn't combine them the way we did with positive and -3. You couldn't do, for example, +-56. That would be wrong. You'd have to simply write them as two separate answers. Okay, so I hope this brief video helped you better understand the thinking that goes behind absolute value equations. As a quick recap, we started with expressing the meaning behind absolute value with a known number inside, what that means in terms of a question, how we can draw a number line to help us figure out and visualize what that looks like. And we went over how absolute value represents the distance in units away from 0. And then we applied the same understanding to a scenario where we did not know the number inside the absolute value, but we did know how far that number is in units from 0. And so we kind of worked backwards to figure out what the value of that number is. And we came up with that it would be two possible things, and we have to represent both if we want to give a complete answer. I hope this video helped. Thanks for watching. See you next time.